Okay, so today we're going to go a little more into not so much your case study itself, but how to kind of get material for your case study that isn't just things that you may find on Google or Yahoo or Bing or whatever popular search engine you may be utilizing. There are different tools out there to do research, to get various statistics. So the idea of kind of going into a library is really kind of an old media way of thinking. Go into a library and you pull books from the shelves, and if anyone has ever use some of the film machines and so forth. This wasn't the only way to do research. So when I had to do a research paper when I was a kid, and I'd have to go into the library, you'd have to pull the books and encyclopedias and news articles and so forth. Nowadays, you go online, you can find different news articles, you can find archived news articles, right? Archive just means things that have kind of happened in the past, and they're in a sense put in a folder someplace, right? So when we think of archiving, you're really just taking things out of one folder and putting them into another folder, kind of like a backup, so to speak. So you can look through various archives, and the good thing is the kind of where we're moving in technology, digitalization of old media is kind of on the rise. So older photos, I know the New York Historical Society has been categorizing all their photos, and this is where that we talk a little bit about data. I kind of brought that in so you have an idea of kind of how this digitalization process works. So let's say there's an old photo of, let's say, Brooklyn College, right? Let's say someone took an old photo from when the college was first built, and you can go and look up different photos, and you can go and see what time and when something was created. But someone had to put that in, right? Nowadays, you take a picture, you post it, it's already digitally stamped of what camera it was taken on, where it was taken from, the date and time, and so forth, right? So if you take an old photo and you had it in print, dating the photo was a process in itself. So there are ways that as we digitalize things, all that digital information of the who, what, when, and where has to be manually input, I should say, so that later on when you search for these things, you go online and you search for a photo, for example, you search for an old news article, you are able to put those keywords into a search engine and then bring up that article. Well, if you just scan a paper article, yes, there are text recognition software. However, assuming that the date is located on that particular page, then of course it would pick it up. But let's say there's a news article that's kind of in the middle of the page, and it's a clipping, and you have to figure out when it's from. All this information has to be digitally input. So there are ways you can access old media on new media currently. So when you do research for your case study, I don't want you to just find the things you would find in Google. And I'm going to show you different ways. And this goes, you can utilize this, of course, for any type of research, whether for school work or just personal. You want to get some more information to win an argument, so to speak. Right nowadays, if you have an argument about about something regarding a fact, well, you look up that fact. Maybe two people are arguing, well, when was the campus built? Before the internet, you had to go and find someone that knew maybe when the campus was built and verify your answer. But nowadays, you have a 2-second conversation. Somebody goes on their phone, they look up when the campus was built, and you pull up all your information, right? So things are really easy at fingertips. It's very easy to find out information. But I want to show you different places than your typical Google search where you can find that information. And I'll also talk about some of the laws of the internet. As more information is provided, the chance of copyright or using somebody else's information without properly noting it is increased because it's so easy. You copy and paste something right into a paper, right? And you don't even need to type it out from a textbook or from a book, so to speak. Now you have that copy and paste option, so it's super easy. All right, so we'll talk a little bit of internet law, and as long as you cite something, and this is when I tell all of my students in all the classes, right, if you're going to use material from someplace, the internet, a textbook, wherever, okay, if you find something other than it coming from your words and you're typing it in, then you borrowed it from someplace else. If you cite it, then you've done nothing wrong. Okay, so if there's nothing wrong with you using statistics from someplace, even someone else's opinion from someplace, you want to bring in an article and you want to take a paragraph and have somebody else's point of view or whatever. Take that paragraph, as long as you properly cite it in your paper, in your research, and whatever you're doing, then you've done nothing wrong, right? Because you've given credit to where credit is due. And that's really all citation is. So don't put yourself at jeopardy of a copyright or some type of academic integrity situation when all you had to do was cite. Right, so I'm going to show you, kind of also the proper way, and it's very, very easy to do citations. We talked a little bit last week about that. Okay, so you should be pretty well on how to do a citation. So just put all your citations in, and you'll be fine. Okay, right. Excuse me. I'm trying to speak over. Right, so on Blackboard, there are under course materials, I put a new folder there for internet research resources. Right, so anything we come up with, any type of laws or generalized search tools and so forth, I have put up kind of a folder that I will add to as needed. So if you ask me a specific question on how to do some specific research, library research, you can search through different types of specific or generalized search engines. So if you only want to search through library archives, you can do so, which Google doesn't search in those things. If you can Google a specific library search engine. Once you're there, you can search different library archives, but the results that would come back in one of those searches does not come up in a regular search engine tool. So I've put a couple resources there, and I'll talk about some of the differences. All right, let me share. So I'm sure you're all familiar with a general search engine like Google, Yahoo, Bing, okay, whatever. These are very, very common. You use them, I'm sure, all the time. Okay. Then there are what is known as your meta search engines. And if you remember, we talked about search engines. The idea of searching. You can actually search multiple search engines simultaneously, meaning you can search Google, Yahoo, and Bing all at the same time because they will often give you different information. So when doing research, if you are not going to use a meta search engine, which here it gives you a few examples, okay, Dogpile, Excite, Metacrawler, these are different types of meta search engines that will search these smaller search engines. Okay. So something like Metacrawler, for example, will search all of the major search engines that are out there. Okay, so you would use them in the same fashion. You put in your search terms, you put in your keywords, and it just uses multiple websites and brings back information. So if you are always using the same search engine, let's say you're always using Google, that's great, that's fine, get your information. But if you're doing research, you want to try to search multiple platforms because you're going to bring back different information, right? So you might want to use something like a meta search engine. Then you have what are known as your specialized tools, and you can search different databases, directories, government information, again, various search engines. USA.gov is just an example. You can actually search through different government information, laws, things that have been passed, things about the country. It is a lot of different things about our government and so forth. And again, these are some sample web pages. But if you know what you're looking for, if you don't like Dogpile, Excite, Metacrawler, for example, well, you don't need to use them as long as you know what they're called. You go to Google or you go to Yahoo and you type out meta search engines and you can actually Google them. So, you go to something like meta search engine list, and here are the top 10. Again, Dogpile comes up, and it tells you exactly what search engines it searches through. Right? So the good thing is you can use a regular search engine like Google to search out these. But once you know the terminology and know kind of what to look for, then you can figure out which one you want to look for, which one you want to use. Right? So something like Dogpile is pretty relevant, and you can see exactly kind of where they're pulling their information from. Right? Next, okay, you have your social media search engines, which search, of course, through your social media websites. And again, these are some samples. But again, if you know what you're looking for, you don't necessarily have to use Topsy. You can use any other ones as long as you know kind of what you're looking for. So if you are looking for things within a social media type website, you can use a social media search engine, which will bring back anything within a social media website. And it will take all the social media websites. So you don't have to necessarily just go to Facebook, pull information. Just go to Instagram, pull information. Just go to Twitter, pull information. Just go to your YouTube or Vimeo sites and pull information. It'll do this all. So it'll search all social media websites and bring back information for you. Okay, so you can research more in a sense by doing less. Right, so if you have these tools under your belt, you can do different types of searches and bring back information that you may have not found in a general Google type search engine. So this is one type of way that you can search through various search engines in kind of what you're looking for. Right. So again, this is listed under course materials. There's a folder there for internet research resources, and you can see them all there. Okay? They're listed for you. You can look at them anytime. Okay. Citation tips. When looking up information, okay, make sure that you're looking for, when you're doing a citation, that you're looking for some of the kind of generalized things that you may look for in a book or a journal, things like date, author, and the page title. Okay, so the page title often is underneath your banner on the top of your web page. Now, if you are using browsers like Edge, I think Chrome even does it where it collapses the title. It's kind of hard to figure out. But if you look at your tab, right, so if you look at your internet tab, for example, this tab itself will tell you exactly the page title, right? So here, if I hover over it, this is my entire page title. You can expand it and look at the tab, okay? So this would be the page title. This here is the URL, okay? So when you're looking at a website, and we're going to be going through some of the internet laws. So let's take a look at this one, for example. So the page title would be the Internet Law Library, New Media Institute, page 1. The author, in this sense, it comes from the New Media Institute, so it is a commercial publication. This is constantly changing. It has a copyright of 2014, but this is something that, it's not a specific article, this is just something that constantly changes as the laws change. Okay, so there wouldn't necessarily be a date unless there was a last updated date, for example, then you can include that. As opposed to something like this, where here again would be your web page title, here would be your URL, this would be your article title, here's your author, here's the date the article was written, and the last date it was updated, right? So you're doing citations, right? That's kind of the things you want to look at. Now, also, something that you want to include is date viewed. Date viewed you want to put because your website is dynamic in the sense that it changes. So a lot of times websites may change. So you want to cite from the day that you actually took the information from. Right? So when looking for website citations, this is pretty much all I'm looking for. If you find any more information, great. If you don't, this is at minimum of what I'm looking for. And again, when dates aren't provided, you can skip it. However, date viewed, URL, page title, and author, you cannot skip. Right? So page title, the only time you can kind of skip it is if you're citing the whole website. And in that instance, you're using the entire website as your corporate author, right? But you're still citing that corporate author, right? So you're going to, at minimum, should have the author, the page title, the URL, and the date viewed. Right? When the author's name isn't there or isn't specific, you should at least use the corporate author, whoever published it. Okay, right? So an institution, an association, if you found it online, it's hosted by somebody, and that's who your corporate author would be. Okay. All right. Filtering out the information that you don't want. Okay. Page title is, if you see this tab, right? The tab itself is the page title. Right, so if I hover over my page title, it'll give me the full page title. Same thing with this one. If I hover over the page title, once I'm clicked on it, it'll give me the full page title. Okay? And now this is Edge. If I go to, let's go on my classes. Okay. So if I go to, let's say, what is this? Firefox. Right. And then I share my Firefox window. Again, same thing. Hover over the title, and you can see the page. Excuse me. Hover over the tab, and you can see the page title. They pretty much all work in this fashion. If you have an older browser or you have something different, sometimes the page title will be straight across the top. Right, so kind of next to help, you may have a title kind of in a border. An old Internet Explorer would show it all the way kind of stand on top. But if you have something with tabs, it'll show you in the tab. Okay. All right. So with Google, you can search. I think I showed you guys this in the beginning of the semester, but I just want to show you again. With Google, go to Google. You can do, of course, a normal Google search. You can also do an advanced search. The thing with research is that you want to find as much pertinent information as you possibly can. So what you want to do is eliminate all the other stuff . You want to eliminate all the things that you don't want. Okay, so you want to have as much pertinent information that that you want to have for your research for your topic, while eliminating all the things that you do not want. So things like all of these words, you're going to search all of these words. I'm sure you guys know how to use a regular search engine. Something like this exact words is very similar to putting your quotations around. Something with any of the words is going to be any of this. Right? So these are pretty straightforward. If you're using or want some type of statistic or number range, you can also do that. If you want something in a particular language or something that came from a certain region of the world, something that was published in a certain area of the world. So if you're doing research, and let's say you're doing research on commerce, e-commerce from China. Well, I want to do research and get statistics back, not from the United States point of view, but from the China point of view. So from the Chinese point of view, I should say. So I would go on my list and I would select China from my list. And now I would bring back articles, and you can either select something in English or you can actually have the page be translated. So you can actually pull up information from statistics from other countries or other regions of the world to get your opposition. So especially if you are in international business or international studies of any sort, you can actually look up the criteria from another point of view and bring back only those results. Now, like I said, you can have, Google has built-in translators, so you can bring back that web page a lot of the times in English, or you can force it back to things available in English for you. Okay, so you can do that there. Something the last time it was updated. If I'm looking for a news article and I want to find the most up-to-date information, I would want something posted in the last 24 hours, in the last week, month. Again, this is usually used especially if you're looking for statistic information or you're looking for specific research. Something from a specific site or domain. So if you want to search for something like within Wikipedia, you can search within wikipedia.org, or you can search within a certain domain like a .gov if I'm looking for government information, .edu if I'm looking to bring back something from an educational website, and so forth. Terms appearing, I showed you where the title of the page is. Something in the text of the page, meaning the entire, when you open up the web page, URL is the address, or any links to that page, right? So if I'm looking for a term that appears and I'm doing research, but I want to find out kind of the research before the research. I want to know where something came from, and I'm looking up a particular study. Well, I want to know not only where that study comes up, but where else is that study linked to? Who has referenced that study in another article? Who has linked to that study? So you can actually search for things in links to that page. So if you're looking for certain information, anything that is linked to a particular page, again, you would put a website here. Okay. File type, again, this is just pretty basic. If you want a file to come back in a certain format, PDF or something along those lines. Usage rights. Usage rights, if you find something that is free to share, even commercially, then you don't necessarily need to do a extravagant citation. If you're using something directly from somebody else, of course, you need to cite it. But if you're using something that's free to share, like a photo, for example, well, then you don't need to cite the photo. If it's not free to share or use, and you want to put it in your paper, well, then you have to have the proper citation. Okay? That's Google's advanced search. I'm sure, I think I had done that in the beginning of the semester, okay? So when you're looking for the right words to filter, right, these are some kind of tips, right? So you have 2 search terms, 2 search keywords. If you put in an and, it's only going to bring back what's in this kind of blue area in the cats and dogs. Of course, or will bring back both information. You can also use not. So if you find that you're doing a search and you keep bringing back certain information that you just don't want to see about a topic, about a situation, whatever, well, you can put not. Yes, James. If you have a question, you can just type it right into the chat. It's not a problem. You can also put not right into a search engine to eliminate things that you do not want to see. All right, so I'm looking for an article regarding cats or regarding pets, but I don't want anything that has to do with dogs. Right, so I want to find research about all different types of pets except for dogs, or except for cats and dogs. I want to know about all different types of pets that people have, and the two most common types of pets that people have, cats and dogs. So chances are, when you're doing your research, that's the only things you're going to find. Well, if you can eliminate all of that stuff, well, you can start finding the pertinent information as opposed to searching through a needle in a haystack, and get rid of all the stuff that you don't want to see very, very easily by using the not term. Okay. Some other search tips. Some Google Advanced Search already does for you, like in URL, in title, etc. This is the search term it's using, and all you're really using in the Advanced Search is their graphic interface. But this is what it's doing when you put it into a search engine. So if you are looking for something that wants to point to a specific website, well, you would put your search term or your keyword with links to, and this is just a Department of Energy's website, that would go to the Department of Energy, for example. So any links that would take you to the Department of Energy, this particular website, that's what's going to come up. Right. So you can search a specific website, you can put a keyword here, so that a keyword and a link to that website will come up. So again, if you're doing research about a specific company, about a specific person, well, I want to know where else they have been referenced from, maybe different social media sites or whatever, right? So you want to find information of anyone that is linked to that particular website. Then you have your specialized search engines. Your specialized search engines are going to be very specific to topic. So you can do a law search engine if you're looking for various legal cases, legal articles, law technology, whatever, okay? You can find them through a specialized search engine. Medical information, any type of educational information, business-oriented websites. So again, they work as, I wouldn't say they work as a meta search engine because they're not as large, but they're very specific. So they would look up very specific type of websites, very specialized type of search engines, and then bring back information based on those search engines. So I may be looking for different law technologies, but unless I find it, or even legal news, right? So let's say I'm looking up information about a certain law. Well, something that maybe mainstream media wrote about would come up in a normal search engine, but something in a legal news gazette may not come up unless you go and search within that legal news gazette. So you want to search, like findlaw.com is a search engine that works very, very much like Google, except it searches only through law type of websites. And so that's really the only difference between that type of site. Hang on a second, I'm looking for the other one I want to show you. Next is the IPL. IPL is also known as the Internet Public Library. Now, it's no longer updated. It hasn't really been updated in I forget, like maybe 5-6 years. However, there's resources again that span back. So if you're looking for any type of research before like the last 5 or 6 years, it's no longer updated. However, you can still search through their repository, you can still search through their libraries, and figure out kind of some resources by subject, old newspaper articles, old magazines. If you're looking for certain research for kids, you can also put them on here. And there is a newer version of this, but this was a pretty good resource. Unfortunately, it was open source, and they lost funding. But you can search through different topics. And like I said, as long as you find something kind of in the past, so if you're looking for a baseline to compare something to, this is a great tool to use, all right? So you can kind of look up the new statistics and look back the old statistics, and you can find a lot of articles that you know are valid, that you know are trustworthy, that have proper citation rules, that come from good citations, very trustworthy citations, right? So IPL is another resource that you can use. Pull up the other newer one. So the IPL has kind of, and I say kind of because they're not the same association, has moved into what is known as the Librarians Internet Index. And this is used for librarians across the world. Institutions use this for research. Again, a good source for your research. You know, it's a trustworthy source for your research. And you can search different types of studies, different types of databases. It's indexed, so you can search through all. Index means that you can search through kind of all those keywords and so forth, and find out a bunch of different information. So they have a search criteria there. You put in your search. Works very much like a similar search engine, but it does search through a bunch of different libraries. Okay, now. Here we go. Yeah. It's freely available. Okay, so it is not sold. You don't need a subscription or anything like that. It is credible in the sense that the authors must be qualified. Okay, so it's not like Wikipedia, which we're going to talk about, which has to do with your assignment. Okay, for this week. It's open to the sense that you have to be pre-approved to put information there. Once you're pre-approved and qualified, then the author knows kind of the rules of the road, and they can start adding information. Right, so it's completely written. There's, should be coherent articles, links that link to external articles. So it's very legal. It's works under all the copyright guidelines. So you again know that this is a trustworthy source for information, because out there on the internet there's a lot of untrustworthy sources, and sometimes it's hard to figure out if it's a trustworthy source. All right, so when we think about new media and being able to have information at our fingertips, just using the World Wide Web is a form of new media. So doing research on the internet comes with its own set of rules. So traditional type of research is really, you would approach research in the same manner, but how your execution is very different when it comes to new media, because you went to a library, you picked out a newspaper, you read the newspaper, you read the information in the newspaper, you took information from that newspaper, let's say statistics, and you wrote them in your paper, and for the most part, those statistics are true. Nowadays, I want to find out a statistic on something. I put it in a Google search. I get the first statistic that comes up in the first search engine. I put that in my paper. I cite the website that it came from and move on. But did I really check to see if that was a trustworthy website? Right, so you have to figure out kind of where your sources are and where your information is coming from. And this is a good way to not have to worry about that, a good way to not really have to think about it. So if you're using a library type website, something like this is just an example. Librarians Internet Index. Okay, that's what this website is. Using this as an example, there are other ones, of course, but you know that the information that you're getting back is credible. So you can, without having to search your source and do information about your source, you can just use the whatever statistics you come up with, or whatever information you come up with right from the website. Use the source that's provided, and with a clear head, you can use that information. Okay. Let me find the next one. Another is Internet Scout. Internet Scout is a subject geared search engine. Right, so it is open source. Again, not like Wikipedia that kind of anyone can go on, but it is open source that you can use the information freely. And once you are approved, you can add information freely. Now, there are different research projects, different publications, and so forth. So again, this is just another tool that you can utilize, and it searches through different metadata, and it gives very specific browsing results. Okay, so you can search through science, technology. There's a whole bunch of different. My Zoom window partially covers some of this stuff. So. Let's see. Sorry, and you can actually search through their archives as well, right? So different archives of digital archives of all different types of topics. And again, you would just search through the browser here and find out your information. You know, it's an educational-based website. Okay, so there are different educational resources that are available for free, and that's why this particular one is open source. So next thing I want to talk about are, talk a little bit about citations, but next I want to talk about the actual laws, internet laws that are out there. Now, of course, there are all different kind of local laws that would apply online. You can't hire a hitman. You can't buy drugs online. You can't buy people online. Right? Again, these are laws. Can you? Absolutely. Everything is available online, especially through the dark web. So there has to be some type of civility. Okay, there has to be some type of way to keep order, especially when we talk about the vast openness of the internet and availability of the internet. So I think I've mentioned WIPO, World Intellectual. Okay, WIPO is kind of an online court system that allows you to take someone to court, and it's arbitrated by lawyers, real lawyers, to say, well, I own this information on the internet and someone else was trying to take it from me. So usually you will have to be protected by some type of copyright or some type of trademark, which is a process. You go through the US trademark system, you go through the copyright system. Again, it's a US thing. So if you put information out on the internet, well, how do I prove that that belongs to me? A lot of times it has to do with your timestamp, time date, when things happen. So if you can prove that you had no access or prior information to someone's internal business and you posted something that is, in a sense, yours, then you can come up with what is known as a WIPO case or a digital millennium case. So the actual law is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, also known as the DMCA. The DMCA was signed into law, and you know what? I will actually copy the thing here. I'll give you guys the citation. All right, so the DMCA was signed into law in 1998 by President Clinton and has to do with the WIPO organization, the World Intellectual Property Organization, and creates what is known as a copyright treaty, the WIPO copyright treaty, which is saying that if you post something out on the internet, and you don't necessarily go through copyright proceedings that someone might go through for publishing a textbook, for example, it still belongs to them. Just because they didn't go to court and get a copyright through the U.S. Copyright Office or a patent or a trademark through the U.S. Patent or Trademark Office does not mean that information does not belong to them. So WIPO comes in and says, okay, well, just because you don't have a trademark does not necessarily mean that doesn't belong to you. So we're going to be an arbitrator to see who came up with the information first. And there is known as what is the WIPO Copyright Treaty that will look into those type of cases to say, okay, well, this author posted this first, and they, in a sense, now hold copyright rights to this work, this photo, this video, whatever was posted. Then there is known as the CAN-SPAM Act, and this was in 2003. And the CAN-SPAM Act, which I will post here, has to do with spam, okay? It has to do with non-solicited pornography or marketing. So if you never knew what the word spam meant, spam means non-solicited pornography or marketing. That's what spam stands for, okay? So the controlling of spam, there's a control behind there. So if you unsubscribe from something, so to speak, and now you're still sending me information, I can now actually have either a civil or criminal suit that will either force them to pay restitution or have their business, their rights to actually email taken away, or something along those lines. They get fined, okay, whatever the case may be. If they find that it's their kind of always spamming, they may have different types of penalties. Okay, so there's an actual act that says you cannot do that. Next is known as the Anti-Cyber-Squatting Consumer Protection Act. And if anyone knows what squatting means, it means kind of hanging out somewhere that may not necessarily be yours. So in New York City, I'm not sure of the state, I know in New York City, that if there is a property left unattended and someone goes inside and makes a home for themselves, they cannot technically be kicked out without legal proceeding. Okay, so you have a house, you come across it, it's empty, looks like a brand new construction. I go inside, I make myself at home, I start using the fridge, I unload my suitcase. I've now made a home there. Don't pay any rent, don't pay any utilities, don't pay anything, just decide to make a home there. And now I'm using someone else's property for my home. Well, there has to be legal proceedings to get me out. That's New York, right? So what they say for an anti-cyber squatting is you can't just use somebody's web domain that looks similar, and I'll give you an example. Chase, and I use Chase a lot of the times in my examples because they come under fire in a lot of my cybersecurity classes. Chase Bank, for example, is Chase Bank. They've been J.P. Morgan. They were a few different banks in the past that they bought over and bought over and bought over. Chemical Bank was another one, and so forth. And so they've kind of gobbled up different banks along the lines. Chase, if you go to chase.com, is Chase's website. They have bought up different websites that people were trying to use and kind of make their way, make it look like, sorry, you guys should be able to see my whiteboard. Making it look like they're Chase Bank, but they're not. And we talk about different phishing sites. What someone might do is, I'm going to purchase the website chasebanking.com, and I'm going to make it look like I am Chase Bank. I'm going to use their logo. I'm going to use their trademark. I'm going to try to make it like I'm their service. And then I'm not going to sell that website back to Chase Bank. I'm going to hold it hostage. I'm going to not only spoof your website, but then I'm going to hold that website hostage. Well, the Anti-Cyber Squatting Consumer Protection Act says that someone can come in, like Chase Bank, and go to a web hosting company like GoDaddy and say, well, that is too close to our trademark and to our website. We need to acquire that web domain. Now, if the Anti-Cyber Squatting Consumer Protection Act doesn't protect them, they would then go and take a white book case. They can absolutely get that back. Lastly, that doesn't really have to do with information, but it has to do with laws of the internet, is the Child Internet Protection Act. And this just is a law to try to protect children on the internet. Concerns about safety on school libraries, for example. This is why in school you are very limited. Well, there's a lot of reasons why you're very limited on what the things you can search for in let's say, the lab computers that you were on, for example, for your midterm. Well, this has to do with the Children's Internet Protection Act. There has to be certain filters on schools, especially because we are a New York City school, not a private school. There are certain rules that we have to require to block offensive content from coming up, whether on purpose or mistakenly, when searching. Okay, so grammar school, middle school, high school, for example, also have to follow these, whether they are private or public or even a charter school. Okay, any type of school that is pre-K through 12 has to follow this type of censorship, so to speak, on their websites, on their web browsing, on anything someone may search or install on a computer, of course, to protect kids. Okay. So these are some of the laws out on the internet. As far as, the copyright law, be careful when posting things out on the internet that if they don't belong to you or you don't cite them properly, you can be brought, you can have a case against you. All right, so there are laws to the internet. Okay. Yeah, I will upload the entire lecture to Blackboard, okay? So you guys should be able to get that, okay? Yeah, no problem. And I will actually post that website under your internet research resources. There, depending on what type of information you're researching, maybe you're looking up business law, for example. Well, you can use this website, and this is just the New Media Organization's website, and I will put that web link up right now. The Internet Law Library. statistics. If you want to find different statistics, if you want to search out different statistics, I should say. Let me clear this out. There are different ways to do so. First, you can use what is known as Google Analytics. Any type of analytics, I should say. Any type of analytics. Google has them, Facebook has them, Instagram has them. Analytics is just the statistics behind who, when, what somebody has visited on the internet. Okay, so if I want to look up a certain search terminology, how many people have searched, and I can bring up the iPhone slow. And you can look up what is known as different analytics. Now, there are different websites to look up different analytics. You can just type in Google Analytics. There's an analytics service. You can put in, of course, you can pay for different analytics. You can also find some free analytics. So depending on the type of statistics that you're looking for, some may be available for free, like how many times did someone search something on a particular website or within a certain social media site, and you can usually find those on those social media search engine sites, right? So you can find out how many people search for a particular keyword in a day, in a month, in a year, in a specific city, state, country, language, from a cell phone, from a desktop, from a laptop. You can put in all the different types of criterias and also bring back that information. Now, businesses have, of course, this tool right at their fingertips when registering themselves on Google. So you can ask different types of questions. How many times did someone search for specific search terminology on Google in the United States, in New York, this month? Right? And now you can start asking those types of questions. Right? So what you're looking for is an analytic tool. And so there are different types of analytics tools. Google has tons of different websites also that you can use. Google Scholarly, for example, is another type of website that you can use. Okay. You know what, let's pick up on this next week. I want to talk about we'll kind of pick up on some of these other sites, and I'll post a bunch more in your internet research folder. Okay, so if there's a couple other ones that that are available, there'll be a whole bunch of stuff in there for you, but I don't want to take up too much time. I want to talk about use the last 5 minutes for your assignment. Okay, so talk a little bit about Wikipedia. I'm sure you all know that I'm sure you've heard over the times, don't use Wikipedia because it can be edited, right? Well, part of your assignment for the next week or so is to edit and create a Wikipedia page. So if you go onto Blackboard and go onto your assignments, you'll see here, okay, there are two assignments. Okay, one I'll talk about first, which has to do with your term project, okay, which I gave you guys last week, in a Word document, what case study you want to use, what type of research you'll be focusing on, what your research goal is, okay, and talk a little bit more today about how to do research. You'll have a little more on Thursday, research practice. So you should be very comfortable doing whatever research is needed for your case study. Okay. As far as Wikipedia, Wikipedia itself is, you can create, let's come in here. Okay. All right, so you're going to create a Wikipedia entry, and you're going to submit, let me go back. You should be able to see my, webpage. Okay, so where you see weeks 7 to 8 assignment, click on that. That's going to be your submission, and you're just going to copy and paste your web link for your Wikipedia submission on here. Okay, now click on the web link. It'll take you to a Wikipedia site. Right? And these are all your instructions. Okay, so you're going to go and you're going to edit. You may have to create a Wikipedia account before you can edit. Okay, so you go in, you're going to edit a Wikipedia page. You're going to create something of new content. Now, when you go to edit, here's all your instructions. Right, so when you get to your changes and you've actually done your post, you're going to copy and paste that post into here, into your right submission. All right, so go into your Wikipedia, go into this, and you could read through all the instructions. Okay, it'll give you all the instructions on how to edit, what I'm looking for. Once you register, it'll give you some more options as well. How to write a new article, and again, if you keep this, if you take this assignment seriously, and you actually write. You don't have to write anything crazy, okay? You're going to write a short article and post the web link to me, okay? So I will post the rest of the instructions. I don't see it on here. I'll post the rest of the instructions underneath the 7 to 8 assignment. And again, just post that web link to me. If you do this substantial enough, it could be something that you can actually publish and have on Wikipedia. So talk about something you like. Talk about something you know about. Talk about something that it doesn't matter. You can decide, okay? As long as you talk about something that you are interested in, that you can, and it's going to be a short article, okay? A short 2-paragraph, when you read an article, not even a full word page. Okay, so 2 short paragraphs is more than sufficient enough. And that includes your kind of introduction to what you're talking about and the conclusion of what you're talking about. All right, so something short, brief, could be something from your major, it could be something from your case study, it could be something about research. You're very broad into what you want. You can go into the edit and you can pick a topic from there. They give you suggestions also. And pick something that you are interested in talking about, that if you wanted to publish this, that you can actually put your name to it, and well, we can post this on your blog, and what we can do is actually make this public, and you can have it also searchable on Wikipedia. So if you have research that you've done in the past, write a short article about it. If you've come up with something that interests you, write a short article about it. Okay, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be super long. You don't need to go put in a ton of research, and this is why I want you to find something that interests you. And it's more about the process than the subject for this one. Okay, so just be comfortable being able to go in, how to change something, and it will do a copyright check for you. Okay, so make sure you don't come up as flagged as copywritten information, and it should you should be sufficient enough. Okay, like I said, I'm going to post a couple more links on your Blackboard Internet Resource page, and for Wednesday, right, just keep an eye. I will have an assignment posted for all day Wednesday. We won't have another live lecture. Next week, we'll meet back in class, right? So, well, you can start working on it already. So if you go onto your assignments, you can already start doing your term project area focus. I will give you feedback in that assignment if you should continue on that path or you should do something else, okay? Also, midterm grades were posted. Okay, so your mid-semester grades, your official mid-semester grades are posted. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you all next week.